Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Many of you may get these newsletters from Yogi Bhajan's Tantric Yoga group. They call themselves Sikh Dharma International. That show Yogi Bhajan as nothing but about love. They even give one of his drawings here as an example of Yogi Bhajan's love and these meditations that Yogi Bhajan gave for excelling in love. But there's another side to Yogi Bhajan, which these students of Yogi Bhajan's are not telling. This is a side of Yogi Bhajan that depicts him as a rapist and an abuser of his students. This was an article that was in the Eugene Register Guard, where they interviewed one of Yogi Bhajan's high-level secretaries, who said that Yogi Bhajan had raped her and abused her sexually. It says in the article here, this was May 9th, 2010, the article came out, front page article in the Eugene Register Guard. The married Yogi Bhajan had sexually and physically assaulted her. He was sexually involved with other secretaries, and that as the head of his administration, she worked long hours for little or no pay. So I asked the question, was Yogi Bhajan about lust or about love? That's the question that I have. I was with Yogi Bhajan for 30 years in the Yogi Bhajan group, Tantric Yoga group. And so I have some first-hand experience with Yogi Bhajan. I was on security. My name is Gursant Singh, and I was on security with Yogi Bhajan there in Los Angeles and in Espanola, New Mexico. Now, I did not witness any of these rapes or sexually abusing students, although I did witness Yogi Bhajan abusing students and kicking them and assaulting them. But I did witness that Yogi Bhajan did not come to the depositions that were ordered by the court in this lawsuit that Premka, the head secretary there for Yogi Bhajan, had filed against Yogi Bhajan in 1984. He would always get excuses from his Khalsa doctors saying that he couldn't come. Well, I know for a fact that during this period, Yogi Bhajan and all of us there, an entourage, would go to the La Scala restaurant in Beverly Hills every day and spend $2,000 on lunch, and Yogi Bhajan was perfectly capable of going to these depositions and telling the truth. So I ask you, why was Yogi Bhajan so opposed to telling the truth in a deposition? Now you can see here also pictures of Yogi Bhajan living a luxurious lifestyle with his female secretaries. I also had an experience where Yogi Bhajan commanded me to go buy these sea cucumbers down in the Chinese market in Los Angeles. This was in the 80s as well. And these sea cucumbers are known by the Chinese herbalists as having aphrodisiac qualities. Now, Yogi Bhajan would prepare these. They're a sea animal. They're evidently an endangered species as well. And you can see how they're prepared. I got these pictures off of the internet of how the Chinese prepare these. And Yogi Bhajan would have me buy these sea cucumbers at the Chinese market down there in Los Angeles. Now, the other thing I want to point out is how Yogi Bhajan had a penchant for drawing these sexist phallic drawings. Of course, the Sikh Dharma people, Yogi Bhajan students, don't show these drawings. But Yogi Bhajan gave these drawings to me back in the 1980s. And I have the originals. You can see Yogi Bhajan's signature at the bottom of these drawings, and they're clearly phallic in nature. So again, was Yogi Bhajan about lust or love? That's the question that I have for Yogi Bhajan's students now. This book was called The Game of Love, which featured many of these drawings, obviously not the phallic drawings, but the Yogi Bhajan people borrowed some of my drawings that weren't phallic in nature back in the 1990s from me and put them in this book they called The Game of Love. Well, it really should have been called, I think, The Game of Lust. But you decide, after looking at some of these other drawings, whether Yogi Bhajan was about love or lust. Now here is an example of one of the phallic drawings of Yogi Bhajan. And you can see here in the middle that there is a woman that Yogi Bhajan has depicted. Is clearly a stick figure of a woman there with a skirt on in the middle of this phallic drawing. And Yogi Bhajan has love written all around this phallic drawing. And he also has power written here. So what is going on in the mind of Yogi Bhajan? Is it love or lust? Again, that's the question I have. Here are some more of the phallic drawings and other phallic symbols that I've collected over the years that show how the Yogi Bhajan students and Yogi Bhajan participate in these worships of Shiv lingams. I think that some of the students have taken example from Yogi Bhajan, from his art and from his practices, about how the Shiv lingam worships are carried out. Here's another one that was done by Yogi Bhajan, another drawing. Here's another one here, clearly phallic in nature, and Yogi Bhajan has written God here. And then you can see his signature there and the date, 1987. Here's another one here. Yogi Bhajan has said, "Let me know." Pretty revealing. This was on page 37, actually, of that book there. And again, what are we to think about this? What are students thinking as well? And Yogi Bhajan taught this Tantric yoga and had his students engage in it. This is an ad that was put in one of Yogi Bhajan's magazines. It says sexual energy. And one of the things that many of the former followers of Yogi Bhajan brought up were how Yogi Bhajan sent these children away to school in India, kept them away from their parents, while the parents were engaged in this Tantric yoga. So Yogi Bhajan was clearly putting the Tantric yoga above the care of his students' children. Here's that full ad of that where it says sexual energy. This is a meditation they're doing there, some tantric meditation. This was from the 1970s. Now, Yogi Bhajan students have, I think, taken example from Yogi Bhajan's tantric practices. And this is a picture of two students engaging in what appears to be only kind of some kind of sexual in nature at a tantric yoga course. This is an actual picture at a tantric yoga course that was sponsored by the Yogi Bhajan people, 3HO. This is another one here, and you can see how this person is touching the other, this female, in really an inappropriate way. And this is part of this Tantric Yoga course that is being done by the 3HO people. This was a few years ago that these pictures emerged on the internet. Yogi Bhajan also lived a luxurious lifestyle. And he had Rolls Royces, whole stable of expensive, luxurious cars. And again, I think this is indicative of his lustful lifestyle. So ask yourself, was Yogi Bhajan about love or lust? That's the question. I'd like feedback from Yogi Bhajan's students and from people even outside of Yogi Bhajan's students to answer this question. There's a lot of evidence that Yogi Bhajan was more than what his students are depicting him as. Thank you for your time. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.